Imagine that everything you have ever searched for, every book you've read, every meditation you've practiced, every retreat you've attended, every prayer you've whispered, every spiritual technique you've struggled to master. What if none of it was necessary? What if the very act of searching was the only thing standing between you and what you seek? This was the shocking message of a man known simply as Papaji, a teacher whose words challenged centuries of spiritual tradition, a man who dared to tell seekers that enlightenment was not the result of years of effort, not the reward for discipline, not the outcome of spiritual achievement, but something available right now, immediately, in this very moment. His instruction was astonishingly simple. Stop everything and look at who you are. Yet hidden within those few words was a revolution capable of dismantling an entire lifetime of assumptions. To understand why Papaji spoke this way, we must first understand the extraordinary journey that led him there. Because Papaji was not born believing that awakening was immediate. In fact, he spent years desperately searching for God. His real name was H.W.L. Poonja. He was born in 1910 in Punjab, in what is now Pakistan. From a young age, he displayed an unusual spiritual sensitivity. According to accounts from his life, when he was only 8 years old, he experienced a profound state of bliss that left a lasting impression on him. It was a glimpse of something beyond ordinary consciousness, a glimpse that would shape the rest of his life. But as he grew older, that glimpse became a longing, a burning desire, a hunger for God. Unlike many modern seekers searching for peace or self-improvement, Papaji wanted something absolute. He wanted direct experience, not beliefs, not theories, not scriptures, not secondhand knowledge. He wanted to see God. And so he began searching. He traveled throughout India. He met saints, sadhus, teachers, mystics. Yet again and again he left disappointed. No one seemed capable of giving him what he sought. Years passed. Still the question remained unanswered. Where is God? How can I find him? Perhaps you've experienced something similar. Maybe not in spiritual terms, but in life. The feeling that happiness is somewhere else, that fulfillment is just beyond reach, that if only you could find the right relationship, the right career, the right achievement, then finally you would arrive. This assumption is so deeply woven into human consciousness that few people ever question it. Yet Papaji's entire teaching would eventually revolve around exposing this illusion. But first, he had to discover it for himself. Then something extraordinary happened. In the early 1940s, Papaji experienced a vision of a sage he had never met. The figure was Ramana Maharshi, one of India's most revered spiritual masters. The vision directed him to travel south to the sacred mountain Arunachala, where Ramana lived. Papaji obeyed. When he finally arrived, he expected answers. He expected teachings, perhaps secret techniques, advanced practices, mystical knowledge. Instead, he encountered something entirely unexpected: silence. Ramana Maharshi was famous for a method called self-inquiry. Rather than answering questions about reality, he directed seekers toward the one asking the questions. His central inquiry was simple: who am I? Not as a philosophical exercise, not as an intellectual puzzle, but as a direct investigation into the source of consciousness itself. Papaji approached Ramana with confidence. After all, he already had spiritual experiences. He had visions of Krishna. He practiced devotion intensely. Surely he was close to his goal. Then Ramana asked him a devastating question. If Krishna appears before you, who sees Krishna? Who is the seer? The question struck like lightning. For years, Papaji had been focused on what he was seeing: visions, experiences, states, spiritual phenomena. But now attention was redirected toward the one who was experiencing them: the observer, the witness, the sense of I. Ramana challenged him further. Find out where the seer comes from. Find the source, not the object, not the experience, not the vision. Find the one who sees. This changed everything. The search that had taken him across India suddenly turned inward. Not inward toward thoughts, not inward toward imagination, but inward toward the very feeling of being. And there, according to Papaji's own accounts, the search came to an end. What he discovered was not God as an object, not enlightenment as an achievement, not a new experience, but the awareness in which all experiences appear, the silent presence that had been there all along. The thing he had been searching for was the one doing the searching. Pause for a moment and consider the implications. What if every search operates this way? Imagine someone looking everywhere for their glasses, searching every room, opening every drawer, growing increasingly frustrated, only to discover the glasses were already sitting on their face. The harder they searched, the further they seemed from finding them. Not because the glasses were hidden, but because they never thought to examine the one doing the searching. Papaji realized that consciousness itself is like this. We seek fulfillment in objects, experiences, achievements, relationships, spiritual attainments. Yet the awareness we truly seek is already present before every experience begins. This became the foundation of his direct path, and it was radical. Many spiritual traditions emphasize preparation, years of meditation, ethical purification, discipline, study, practice. Ramana Maharshi himself acknowledged various paths while emphasizing self-inquiry as the most direct means to realization. Papaji took this immediacy even further. When seekers came to him decades later in Lucknow, they often arrived with long spiritual resumes. Some had spent 20 years meditating, others had traveled the world studying with gurus. Many believed they were still far from awakening. Papaji would listen patiently. Then he would ask a question. Who wants enlightenment? The seeker would answer, I do. And Papaji would immediately turn attention back. Who is this I? Find it. Right now, not tomorrow, not after 10 years, not after another retreat. Now. Again and again he pointed seekers away from the future, because in his view, awakening was not an event waiting to happen. It was recognition of what is already here. This is why he often said that freedom is your nature, not something to be gained, something to be recognized. And here lies the challenge, because the mind hates this message. The mind thrives on becoming. It wants progress, goals, achievements, milestones. The mind says, just give me one more practice, one more technique, one more step. Yet Papaji's teaching undermines this entire structure. Because if you are already what you seek, what step could possibly bring you closer? How can awareness become awareness? How can the self find the self? How can you arrive where you already are? These questions are not meant to be answered intellectually. They are invitations. Invitations to stop, to pause, to notice, to turn attention away from objects and toward the awareness perceiving them. And this is where Papaji's direct path becomes both beautifully simple and profoundly difficult. Simple because nothing needs to be added. Difficult because the mind is addicted to movement, addicted to seeking, addicted to becoming. Papaji's invitation was nothing less than the end of that addiction. The end of the seeker itself. Because according to his teaching, awakening does not happen when the seeker finds truth. Awakening happens when the seeker is seen to be another appearance within awareness. And when that is recognized, something extraordinary remains. Not a new experience, not a mystical state, not supernatural powers. Simply the silent presence that has always been here. The awareness reading these words. The awareness hearing this narration, the awareness present before every thought and after every thought, the awareness that has never come and never gone. And perhaps the deepest question Papaji leaves us with is this. If the awareness you seek is already present, if freedom is already here, if the self has never been absent, then what exactly are you waiting for?